There are moments in life when we feel as though we are standing at the edge of something great, a promise lingering just beyond our grasp. We pray, we fast, we seek, yet somehow the breakthrough seems delayed, and often we blame circumstances, timing, or even ourselves. But today, I want to reveal a truth that many overlook. The blessings you are waiting for may be right there, ready to manifest, but there are things in your life blocking them. Things that, if you do not let them go, will silently hold back what God has already ordained for you. The first thing to understand is that God's blessings are not random. They are precise, intentional, and designed for your season. Yet our hearts, our actions, and even our thoughts can create obstacles between us and the fullness of what God has prepared. The question is, are you willing to look honestly at what is standing in the way? Are you ready to release it and trust God to fill the space with His provision, favor, and peace? The first block to your blessing is unforgiveness. Holding on to offense, resentment, or bitterness may feel justified at the moment, but it chains the heart and prevents God's favor from flowing freely. When we refuse to forgive, we keep the past alive, and in doing so, we also block the future. Blessings require a clean heart, one that is free from grudges and open to God's grace. Imagine carrying a heavy stone in your hands while trying to run toward a finish line. You will never reach it with the same speed or joy as someone who has laid the stone down. Let forgiveness flow, not just toward others, but also toward yourself. Release that weight, and watch how suddenly your path becomes lighter, your vision clearer, and doors begin to open. The second block is fear and unbelief. Fear can appear in many forms: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of change. Each of these forms whispers lies into the mind that you are not enough, that it is too late, that the risk is too great. Unbelief convinces you to shrink back just when you should be stepping forward. But God calls us into faith, into courage, into trust that surpasses our understanding. Blessings are released when fear is replaced with trust, when doubt is replaced with expectancy, and when hesitation is replaced with action inspired by faith. You cannot hold fear in one hand and blessing in the other. They cannot coexist. Choose faith, let go of fear. Watch what God does when you step forward boldly. The third block is clutter and misaligned priorities. Sometimes the things we allow into our lives, physical clutter, toxic relationships, or distractions, act as spiritual roadblocks. They take up the space that God intends for His blessings to occupy. You may be praying for abundance, but your time, energy, and focus are invested in things that produce little return. God's blessing requires preparation, and preparation often involves letting go. Ask yourself, what do I need to release today? What is draining my energy, attention, or joy? Removing these things is not punishment. It is making room for God to move. When your heart and environment are aligned with His will, blessings find you effortlessly. The fourth block is disobedience or compromise with God's truth. Sometimes, we desire the blessing, but are unwilling to follow the instructions that lead to it. We want favor, but we are hesitant to walk the narrow path of integrity, diligence, or spiritual alignment. Every promise of God comes with a principle. Ignoring that principle may delay or even block the manifestation of the blessing. Ask yourself, am I fully aligned with God's word? Am I obeying what I know in my spirit to be right? Let go of compromise. Stand firm in truth. Even small acts of obedience can shift the spiritual atmosphere around you and unlock doors that have been closed for years. The fifth block is clinging to the past or holding on to old identities. You cannot move forward if you are tethered to what no longer serves you. Past mistakes, old labels, previous failures, or former seasons of life can become invisible chains that limit your potential. God is calling you into a new season, but to enter it, you must release what belongs to yesterday, step into the new identity He has for you. Let go of shame, regret, and self-condemnation. When you do, you will find that blessings begin to flow in ways you could not have imagined, because God is not limited by what you've done. He is propelled by what you now choose to surrender to Him. Letting go is not easy. It takes courage, it takes humility, and it takes trust. You may feel uncertainty or discomfort as you release these blocks, but remember, God never calls us to let go into emptiness. He calls us to let go into His hands. Every time you release unforgiveness, fear, clutter, disobedience, or old identities, you create space for something greater. And God is a God who fills emptiness with abundance. He is a God who turns obedience into opportunity and faith into supernatural increase. Consider this: a farmer prepares his soil before planting seeds. If the soil is rocky, overgrown, or hard, the seeds cannot grow. But when the soil is cleared, tilled, and nurtured, it becomes fertile ground. Blessings in your life are like seeds from heaven. They need fertile hearts, open hands, and uncluttered space to take root and flourish. Whatever is blocking you is preventing your soil from being ready. The act of letting go is the preparation of your heart, the cultivation of the ground where miracles will grow. Some of you may feel that you have tried to release these blocks before, yet nothing changed. Let me remind you, the process is not always instantaneous, and sometimes God's timing aligns with His wisdom rather than our impatience. Faith is the bridge between what is and what will be. Continue to surrender, continue to trust, and continue to take steps of obedience. Every step forward, even the smallest, positions you for the manifestation of God's blessing. Release also requires clarity. Know what is truly yours to let go. Ask God to reveal the subtle ways in which you may be resisting. Sometimes the blocks are hidden in patterns of thought, habits, or attachments that we mistake for comfort. Pray for discernment. Seek the courage to confront what is holding you back, and then act decisively. The power of release is in the action, the spiritual and practical step of saying, "I am letting this go because I trust you, Lord, to provide what I cannot hold on my own." And here is the beautiful promise: when you release, God fills. When you loosen your grip on what blocks His favor, His blessings pour in, often in ways you could never have planned or imagined. Doors you thought closed swing open. Opportunities appear that defy logic. Peace replaces worry, joy replaces heaviness, and abundance becomes not just a hope, but a reality. The moment you let go, you align yourself with the flow of God's supernatural provision. It is important to remember that letting go is not just a one-time act. Life will continue to present new challenges, new fears, new attachments. Each time you have a choice to hold on and block the blessing, or to release and see what God will do. Think of release as a spiritual habit, a discipline of faith, a practice that keeps your heart and life in constant alignment with God's purpose. Over time, it becomes easier, more natural, and deeply transformative. So today, I urge you to examine your life. Look at your heart, your mind, your environment, your relationships, and your priorities. Identify what is standing between you and God's promise. Confront it honestly, release it fully, and then stand back in expectation. Stand in faith, not fear. Stand in hope, not doubt. Because God is faithful to fill the space you make with blessings, breakthroughs, and favor beyond measure. Your prayer today could be simple but powerful. Lord, I release unforgiveness. I release fear. I release clutter. I release disobedience. I release the past. I trust you to fill these spaces with your blessings. Speak it with conviction. Speak it with expectation. Speak it with faith. And then watch what happens. Watch God move in ways you cannot orchestrate. Watch doors open, chains break, and dreams manifest. Understand this truth deeply. Blessings do not always come when we want them, but they never fail to come when we are ready. Readiness is a choice. It is a choice to let go of what hinders, to release control, to align your heart with God's plan. It is a choice to step into faith even when you cannot see the entire path. That choice is the key that unlocks doors. You may be standing on the edge of your breakthrough today. Perhaps it is a breakthrough in your career, your health, your family, or your spiritual life. Perhaps it is the manifestation of a dream that has been delayed for years. Do not let fear, unforgiveness, clutter, disobedience, or old identities keep you from stepping fully into it. Let them go, release them, and trust God to do what only He can do. Remember, letting go is not giving up, it is trusting fully. It is not weakness, it is faith. It is not loss, it is preparation for gain. Every blessing in your life, every answered prayer, every manifestation of God's favor requires a heart that is open, hands that are willing, and a spirit that is surrendered. So today, make the decision, release the blocks, forgive, trust, simplify, obey, and shed the weight of the past. And as you do, expect God to respond. Watch Him multiply your provision, elevate your position, and open doors that no one can shut. Your blessing is on its way. It is waiting for you to create space for it. Step into faith, step into obedience, step into expectation. Let go of the 5 things blocking your blessing and see what God does. He is faithful, He is powerful, He is more than able, and He is ready to fill your life with the fullness of His promise if you are willing to release the rest. Believe it, receive it, live it. Your breakthrough is now. True blessings are often delayed not because God is unwilling or because He has forgotten you. It is not because His heart is distant, nor because your prayers go unheard. The truth is that God's blessings are ready, but there are invisible barriers in your life that must be addressed before the fullness of His favor can manifest. These barriers are often subtle, so subtle that you may not even realize they are holding you back. They live in the corners of your mind, the patterns of your habits, and the attachments you cling to. Sometimes it is a mindset of limitation that whispers, "I am not enough," or "It will never happen for me." Sometimes it is habits that drain your energy, distract your focus, or slowly erode your faith. Sometimes it is attachments to things, people, or circumstances that were never meant to define you, yet they keep you tethered to the past. Each of these invisible chains may seem harmless at first, even comforting, but they quietly block the flow of God's favor in your life. The good news is that these barriers are not permanent. They can be released, they can be confronted and set aside through prayer, faith, and decisive action. When you courageously let go of these invisible weights, something powerful happens. Divine favor, which was always present, begins to flow freely. Opportunities open, relationships are restored, doors that seemed sealed swing wide, and blessings arrive in ways you could never have orchestrated. Releasing these barriers is not always easy. It may require self-examination, humility, and a willingness to let go of what feels familiar, even if it is no longer serving you. It may require stepping out of your comfort zone, surrendering control, and trusting God to fill the empty spaces you create. But the moment you do, the heavens respond. What once seemed blocked, delayed, or impossible becomes clear, abundant, and unstoppable. Understand this: God does not withhold His blessings. He is always willing to pour out favor, prosperity, and peace. The delay is often an invitation for you to prepare, to align, and to release what prevents you from fully receiving what He has for you. And when you release those barriers, whether in your mind, your habits, or your attachments, you will discover that God's blessings are not only arriving, they are arriving in ways that exceed your imagination. If you want, I can also expand the next point about unforgiveness, fear, or clutter in the same style, so your speech keeps flowing powerfully. Do you want me to do that next? Spiritual, emotional, and practical blocks are often the hidden walls standing between you and the breakthrough you have been praying for. They are not always visible to the eye, yet their impact is profound. They can quietly shape your decisions, cloud your judgment, and slow down the flow of God's blessings in your life. These blocks take many forms: unforgiveness that keeps your heart heavy, fear that freezes your faith, misplaced trust that leaves you vulnerable, cluttered priorities that scatter your focus, and disobedience that distances you from God's favor. Unforgiveness, for example, acts like a silent chain around the soul. When you hold on to offense or resentment, it may feel justified, but it prevents the heart from fully receiving joy, peace, and God's provision. Fear whispers lies that make you doubt your calling or shrink back when God is calling you forward. Misplaced trust in the wrong people, systems, or temporary solutions can divert blessings that were meant for you. Cluttered priorities scatter your energy and time, leaving little room for God's work in your life to take root. And disobedience, even small compromises with truth or integrity, can stall what God intends, because blessings are tied to principles of alignment and obedience. The danger of these blocks is that they are often subtle. You may not even realize they are holding you back until you take the time to look closely at your life. Yet the moment you confront them, face them with courage, and choose to release them, a transformation begins. Spiritual blocks are removed when you realign with God's word and His purpose. Emotional blocks are released when you allow healing, forgiveness, and faith to replace fear and bitterness. Practical blocks are cleared when you prioritize what matters, make space in your life, and act in obedience to God's calling. Until these barriers are addressed, your breakthrough can remain just out of reach. The prayers you have prayed, the fasting you have done, and the effort you have invested may feel like they are in vain, but the reality is not that God is withholding. He is waiting for you to take the step that releases His favor. Confront the blocks, name them, let them go, and watch as the chains that once held you back dissolve, creating a clear path for God's blessing to flow freely, powerfully, and abundantly into your life. If you want, I can also expand the next part about how surrendering what hinders us creates space for transformation in the same style, keeping your speech cohesive and powerful. Do you want me to do that next? Surrendering what hinders us is not a sign of loss, weakness, or defeat. It is, in fact, an act of alignment with God's perfect plan for our lives. Often we hold on tightly to people, circumstances, or things because they feel safe, familiar, or even necessary. But in reality, these very attachments may be keeping us from experiencing the fullness of God's blessing. Letting go is not giving up. It is stepping into faith. It is declaring that we trust God's wisdom more than our own understanding, that His timing is perfect, and that His provision is greater than anything we can hold on to ourselves. Faith-filled release is transformative. It creates a space in your heart, your mind, and your life where God's presence can move unhindered. When you release what blocks His favor, you make room for miracles that surpass human logic. You open doors that you never imagined could exist. You position yourself to receive answers, opportunities, and breakthroughs that are not only blessings, but supernatural demonstrations of God's power. Think of it like this: when a gardener clears weeds, prunes branches, and prepares the soil, the plants are able to flourish. Without this intentional clearing, growth is stunted and potential remains unrealized. In the same way, when you surrender the things that hinder you, whether it is fear, unforgiveness, distractions, or misplaced priorities, you are preparing fertile ground for God's blessings to grow. What you once clung to may have felt important, but God is inviting you to exchange it for something far greater, His divine abundance, peace, and purpose. Surrender also deepens your intimacy with God. It is in the act of releasing control that you demonstrate trust in His sovereignty. You are saying, "Lord, I may not see the full picture, but I know You are faithful. I trust You with what I cannot manage, and I believe You will fill my life with what I truly need." This posture of faith invites transformation, not just in your circumstances, but in your character, perspective, and spiritual maturity. Every time you surrender in faith, you are participating in a divine principle. God fills every vacuum we create with His presence, provision, and power. What seemed like loss in the moment becomes gain beyond measure. What felt like an ending becomes the beginning of a season of miracles, favor, and supernatural increase. Surrender is not an act of resignation, it is a declaration of trust. It is the bridge between the limitations of the natural world and the unlimited possibilities of the supernatural realm. So do not fear letting go. Do not hesitate to release what hinders you. Every item, every attachment, every thought or pattern that stands in the way of God's plan is an opportunity for faith-filled release. And every time you let go, you align yourself more closely with His purpose, positioning yourself for transformation, divine increase, and miracles that could only come from Him.